Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim.
And I'm Tia.
And so, last episode, we were talking about valleys and peaks and how we sometimes get caught in those valleys that we're just using these metaphors as being like pain or triggerable events or different things where we get stuck and caught in our emotions and we overreact or react. And so we talked about sometimes you can just stay in this valley and you can create a gorge, a Grand Canyon, if you're not careful. So in this episode, we want to talk about how you can prevent yourself from creating a Grand Canyon or creating the gorge and how to work yourself out of the valley and toward the peak. So our quote for today is that life is supposed to be a series of peaks and valleys. The secret is to keep the valleys from becoming Grand Canyons. Bernard Williams. That's the key.
It is. Because we make the valleys into gorges and Grand Canyons because that's right. That co-creation piece, the choices we make after the event happens.
Oh, and we talked about this theme in so many episodes. We talked about the rabbit hole. We talked about, like our thought trains, co-creation, 100% responsibility.
Completely.
And, we do continue to talk about the same theme because it just helps to, I feel, clarify, solidify, and help just make more sense of how our minds work and how we do this to ourselves, right? It's a way out.
Exactly. And it's practice, right? And we have to keep going through it over and over and over because it's another layer. So it's not a one and done, oh, here's this tool, 100% responsibility. Well, it's not always that simple because there's going to be a new event that makes you want to put it on the external, blame the other person.
Yep.
And then it's that reminder like, oh yeah, I get to decide how to come out of this valley.
100%. Totally agree.
100%
100%. 100% I agree. Okay. So let's talk about two things. Let's just talk about we're recording just before Thanksgiving. So let's talk about coronavirus and the things that are happening. Coronavirus has been such useful material for us throughout all of our recording because it just covers the gamut of so many topics. So we'll talk about coronavirus. And then at the end, I'll share my process of what I went through yesterday while I was in my valley so that I didn't create a Grand Canyon and have neutralized some of that energy to now move more so I can move back to the peak.
Exactly.
But let's talk about coronavirus because
it's front and center right now.
Yeah. Next week is Thanksgiving.
Yep. Yeah. So, and I do think it's kind of funny. You said it's been such great material or, just subject matter to talk about on our podcast since it's been going on pretty much since we started for the most part. And it's funny how our podcast is masks off, and masks are such a hot topic with Corona. And that was never obviously our intention when we named this. We thought of masks in a different way with the things we wear.
Completely.
But I mean, even just masks are a big deal that create major valleys, right?
Those who don't want to wear a mask.
So that's a valley right there. So it's become a Grand Canyon event for so many. And then the Thanksgiving get-togethers. I mean, I mentioned I'm very fortunate before we started recording that it's not a big issue. I mean, the only big thing were my kids wanted to make sure they had turkey. And because we're not doing my uncle's not coming over and the traditional, my mom's not even coming over. She doesn't want to with kids, one working in a nursing home and one still on campus. The risk is too high.
Very high.
So she, is completely fine. So we are actually just getting takeout and there's a lot of takeout options. We found a fabulous one that gave options And so we're going to pick it up, drop one off for my mom and come home. My kids get the Thanksgiving meal. It won't be the same. Right. But once they came to terms that, because my daughter works on Thanksgiving in the nursing home, so works at 2:00. I'm like, there's no way I'm making a Thanksgiving meal to eat at 11:30.
7:30 in the morning.
Because we normally would eat at like 6:00. So I'd have all day to cook. And I just put that boundary, and I'm like, I'm not doing that this year.
Good for you. That's good.
We're not having the big, I mean, we never had big. It was always like 8 to 9 people, but I can't mentally do that right now. I don't want to. Maybe I'll cook a turkey later in the season. Who knows? Yeah. But when they found out there were options for a traditional Thanksgiving meal, and supporting a small business, they need the support. So to me, it's a win-win. And so we just get to enjoy it. Yeah. Without it. But I know there's other people who have families who are no, we have to get together. What do you mean you're not going to get together? Or people are choosing to get together. So how's it showing up for you? And what are you hearing?
Well, I was just going to say that's so perfect. So, because Corona, just to lay some of the groundwork, because coronavirus is on the rise and a lot of the governors or mandates are saying no more than, well, actually you're saying you're not supposed to be gathering at all inside. In New York, we're not supposed to have more than 10 people inside.
Yeah. We have a new county ordinance that 0 indoor gathering.
Okay. And on the news,
we're so high, 36%.
That's a lot. Yeah. You guys are really the epicenter, hotspot right now.
We are one of them.
Yep. We're climbing back up there in New York, but not like we were at the beginning.
We hit New York City levels last week.
Oh,
that's what they described it as. So anyways, I digress.
Okay. Yes, I know. Okay. So anyway, we're supposed to be 10. Actually, we're supposed to be 11 for Thanksgiving. And because a family member has tested positive for coronavirus, half of that number is not coming. So now we are just going to be just the 4 of us. And for the most part, I think most of us are okay. So again, we're talking about what's the event. The event is coronavirus. The neutral event is coronavirus, or it's limited people, no gatherings, however you want to say it.
Losing your traditional Thanksgiving tradition.
Losing traditional Thanksgiving. It's different. So people are reacting through the gamut of reactions, right? Mm-hmm. My feeling is like, okay, it'll be nice and quiet. I'm already trying to, in my mind, think of some fun, creative things that we can do, just the 4 of us. My husband just recently, and I've never done this in my life, and I'm still have to think twice about it, but we have 5 acres of land behind us, like all woods. And so he just recently got some paintball guns or machines or whatever for paintball.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what they're going to do? I'm like, why don't we all go out and do paintball on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it'd be fun. Make sure you layer up, because you'll be all bruised up.
I know, they hurt, right? That's the only thing I'm like, maybe I need to think this totally through. But yeah, if I'm
snow pants,
padded and whatnot. So, but the thing is, there's opportunity to create something different, new, and fun.
Exactly.
Whereas there are people that are having the complete opposite of anger, like, no way, like who is the government to say what we can and cannot do? And no, we need to get together. And, this is the tradition. We have to all watch the football. We have to all blah, blah, blah. And really, really upset, and think about all of that anger, all that emotion, all of that resistance, and then creating that valley, that gorge.
Right. It's now a Grand Canyon.
A Grand Canyon, and can stay in that place all the way up to Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving Day and beyond, perhaps, because how many people do you know after something happens, they can go on for months and months and months, maybe even years, still holding a grudge. Oh, do you remember when blah, blah, blah back and when, and the anger and the emotion is still there.
Right. And what kind of Thanksgiving is it going to be with that type of energy.
I know.
It's not going to be that fun because it's going to be a lot of complaining potentially. Yeah. And so someone who's totally fine with it has someone with angst around it. It puts a damper if you're not solid and can like, oh, that's their stuff, not mine. I'm not taking it on. I'm not going to take it on.
It could potentially ruin someone else's afternoon or evening.
Right. You know, and that's where people are. So we're not here judging.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just from an observational standpoint, from what we talked about in the last, when you're up on that mountaintop and you see what's happening around you.
Yes.
It's like, that's interesting. Curious. Like, oh, I wonder why they're making a Grand Canyon out of, it's one day.
Right.
It's really just, it's one meal.
And those people or that person might be okay being in a valley. Maybe they've spent their whole lives being in valleys, right? And they don't know that there are peaks. I think what we're trying to address is for people who are aware, I'm stuck in the valley, right? And I want to come out. Yeah. I want to come out. I don't want to feel this way.
How do I make peace with the valley so I can come out?
Yes. How do I embrace it? How do I make peace? Mm-hmm. Some people are just not going to know any different, and they may spend this whole lifetime being in a perpetual valley, Grand Canyon Gorge, not even knowing that there is a peak to be on. You know what I mean? So,
and that you can make
would you
peace
agree?
With, and that there's another way to enjoy the valley in a different way, embracing the valley.
Yes.
And that's part. So our intention here is not to get you out of the valley, like to crawl out. I'm not going back to that valley ever again. No, it's, I'm in the valley. Where's the lesson in this valley visit? Yes. What part of me do I need to heal in the valley for this situation?
Yes.
Because then you naturally, organically merge. The valley becomes part of your journey and your path. Yes. It's not something we're avoiding. It's something that, like, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can kick and scream and get mad and do all this. Maybe you need to do that for a little bit. Sometimes I need to do that. Sometimes I'm like, I just need to have a pity party.
Yeah.
Okay. Pity party's over. Now what? How can I walk through because I mean, valleys are beautiful. If you think of when you are like in Colorado at Rocky Mountain National Park and you hit a valley, you know, if you're driving or you're walking, and it's so lush and beautiful. And other people can see it like, oh, we got to go through another valley before we can get to that mountain top where it's really pretty. And then I can go hike around the mountain. What can we find in this situation, this event that is causing us struggle? And then we naturally flow out. It's natural.
Yeah. If
we do the inner work and the inner healing, which you'll talk about, you went through. Should we segue into that now?
Yeah, we'll segue into it because I want to just maybe underscore that very often the external doesn't change. We're not trying to change history. We're not trying to change the external, because if we are always trying to change what's on the outside, that's where we end up feeling more powerless, and because you cannot control other people, places, or things. You just can't. Right.
Now, I will add on that, you know, there are injustices in the world, and so we're not talking about that per se.
Yes.
Because over time, as we all heal generational patterns, generational trauma over time, and take action steps to change injustices.
Yeah.
So we're not saying you don't make choices to make, so that's the co-creation piece.
Right. I'm not saying not to take
so
action.
I just wanted
even that is still what you're talking about, is still, we still have to hit internal. It still is within, and that's what we can control. As we heal from within, that will affect the external, like the injustices.
That will collectively create change.
Yes.
And so when we're saying it's a different, I'm trying to find the right words and how to explain it, but you still make choice. Then you can make conscious choices that are in alignment. And that is how true change happens. Because otherwise, if we're like, I want to change this is wrong, you know, whether it's Corona or whatever, or an equity issue, if we're coming at from that energy, then we're trying to force, and then it it does not stay. Right. Even if you see a change, then someone else is going to come in with a stronger energy and change it back.
Yes, I was going to say, then it's just dominance and control. Right. I mean, with parenting is a perfect way to look at that. Totally. You can make your child do X, Y, and Z with force, dominance, and control. So yeah, it might look like you can control another person, and in some way you can when you're a parent.
At what detriment?
At what detriment, right? So that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about like what we really want to be controlling and taking care of is what's going inward. And that's what
then the external does adjust because we're making choices that are in alignment.
Yes.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no,
because I know you want that.
Yes, exactly. So that's why, to segue into like a pathway or what I did yesterday to go through, because again, you cannot sidestep, you cannot go over, you cannot go under, you have to go, you can't just like, you have to just go through it. So again, I felt like I was in a valley, and for a few days, I was in the muck of energy and feeling. And I kept thinking that it was coming from outside, like coming from another person.
That's why we're in the valley.
That's why what? I'm sorry.
That's why we're in the valley, because we think it's on the external.
Right. I thought so. Everything that I was feeling, I thought it was coming from the external. So then as I went inward and I tapped into the energy, I asked myself, like, is this feeling old and very familiar? Yeah. Or is it present day? And it felt very, very old. So then I allowed myself to be with it. And it was 100% like my inner child and going back to when I was young. And the feeling was of not being seen, not feeling important, not feeling that I mattered,
feeling deep.
Yeah, very feeling unloved, not worthy, like alone a lot, disconnected.
Yeah.
And it went all the way back to so young. And I just allowed myself to really feel it in my body, because that's where it's all stored. So I could feel squeezing pressure in my chest and my stomach, my belly area, just squeezing. And then, so there was the emotion that was going on, and then I was feeling it in my body, and then it comes out in tears. And then I was crying and just releasing, like just crying, like uncontrollably, not being consoled at all, like for a good while. And then it was like just feeling. And then because of the work that I've been doing, I felt it's hard to explain unless you actually experience it, but I felt my adult self then coming in and giving that child part of me the nurturing that she needed, that she never had. Exactly. And just to say, like, it's okay. You're okay. You are seen. I see you. Yes. I value you. I love you. And then, this just went on for a while, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I don't know how long it was. And then it was just like, then my little girl started to feel like, okay, she felt protected, more loved, more nurtured, felt my adult self. And I go to say this again, this is just something that we're just not taught. It's such a valuable, integral part of what we should be doing.
Yes.
That, I don't know. It's just something that I think we all really need. And, but after that whole experience, of course, at first it was like I felt drained, but then I felt like the energy was then neutralized.
Because your inner child, all those needs, all those feelings you were having were seen and validated by you.
Yeah. By
your
me.
adult self. And so when we're in the valley, we are that young child who isn't feeling seen, heard, and worthy. And that's how so many people walk around in this life. But when you learn how to reparent and take care of that little girl or little boy within you.
Yeah. It's so valuable. It's such a valuable tool, and it's a way of, you know, embracing the pain, embracing the valleys. And this is like what you and I both do. You do it in your business. I do it in my business. We both, you know, we hold space for people to be able to embrace their inner child, to understand the inner child, because I think you're right. What you just said is that a majority of the time when we are in a valley, we're in our inner child.
Right.
Because what is coming up is anything that's stored in the subconscious mind.
Yep. Yeah. And
sometimes it is true threat. Sometimes in the moment, there could be a true real life threat going on. But then the adult just has to steps up. If there is a fire in my house right now, like, which is a real threat, you know, my inner child might be there, like, oh my God, but my adult's gonna like snap into action, kick in.
Totally.
And okay, let's, you know, and take over.
Right.
So I'm not talking, it's survival. So
true
like
survival.
True survival. So put those types of situations aside.
Yeah.
I am talking about the stuff that really gets us mired and stuck in the valleys where we do create the Grand Canyons, is coming from subconscious, unconscious mind, which is where all the inner child stuff is. It's the old stuff. It's not present day stuff.
No, it's just showing up in the present. How is it showing up in the present moment in this situation? And it can look different. The core stuff is usually very similar, but it can show up in those valleys in different ways.
Yes.
And the more we continue this inner work, this returning to our essence, our self, and that adult self can step in. And so this is that co-creation. So we
completely
can choose to stay an inner child, not consciously, right?
Yes, we do not do it consciously.
We don't even realize we're doing it half the time until you start to realize you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we can co-create and have our adult self come in, clean it up, hold space for ourselves. And until we're able to start to hold space for ourselves, which takes time and patience, that's why we talk about it in our course we're starting in.
I was just going to say
2021 is having your lantern, which we use as a symbol for the people in our life. And so we're not meant to traverse this journey alone. It's a lonely journey, but we do it together. And so when we can't hold space as our adult self for our inner child ourselves, we have others that we trust who can hold that space so that inner child can feel nurtured and seen and loved. And then that valley doesn't turn into a Grand Canyon.
And can help you to keep climbing your path, keep walking the path, one step in front of another. And there will be other valleys as well. Right. You know, this is just like we always talk about the iron and the core of the iron. There's one layer after another until, you know, as you work toward core, same thing with the valleys. You may be in a valley and like now my energy is neutralized. So I'm climbing my path. You know what I mean? I'm back on the path climbing. And then right now I can see clearly. I can see clearly now. So I'm at a peak, but that's not to say next week or tomorrow or in a month that I'm the next one, the next valley.
And I think it's important to point out too, that we're not avoiding the valleys.
Right. That's right.
Because then it's immediately a Grand Canyon and we just don't even know it.
Exactly. That's what happens when you ignore them. You are creating the gorge.
Completely, instantaneously. And you don't even realize that. And so walking along, climbing your mountain is about traversing the valleys, because that's where our real healing happens.
Completely.
So,
and we do this, and we will be doing this work in our class, in our next class, and in our coursework.
And future classes.
And future classes as well.
Yeah, because I mean, there's only so much we can touch on in one course. We don't want to overwhelm. And so it's starting, we're
going to go bit-sized.
Yeah, we want to make this accessible in a way that is organized, you know, because obviously we show up how we are in the moment for these podcasts.
Yeah.
And so the courses have a little more structure, because we like structure, right? Humans love structure.
We do,
for the most part.
I do.
But it has flowing within it, and so we are setting them up so that you can access it on the basic level, you know, or you can go a little bit deeper. We're going to have some optional things so you can go deeper depending where you're at on the journey or what's showing up in your life. Maybe it's a valley you're willing to go a little deeper in, not creating a gorge deeper, but an inner child deeper. And so that's why this is so valuable, because I don't want to live in a Grand Canyon. I want to be able to be on the upper side looking at the beauty of a Grand Canyon, but I don't want to be stuck in it where I can't get out. Exactly. And so it's noticing those valleys and walking through them with healing and our adult self leading the way.
Yeah. And so our very first course will be coming out very soon at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
This will be airing mid-December. So people will be listening and they'll be able to sign up very soon.
Yeah. So the link will be in the show notes and how to sign up. We do have an early bird discount, and that code will be in there as well. So by all means, we hope to traverse this journey of life, climbing the mountain, traversing the valleys together with all of you on our online school.
Absolutely. So excited. Love it. I love the whole mountain metaphors too.
Oh, it's so fun. We're having so much fun.
We're having so much fun with these metaphors. And I mean, it just helps me to understand and connect to my own life. Like I'm like, I came on this morning. I'm like, oh, guess what? I was in a valley. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It makes so much sense. And you start to understand the language, and you know what I mean when I say that.
Completely. And
now I'm on a peak.
Yeah. And that's the community piece, right?
Yeah.
You know, and in the meantime, for those of you listening, some of you may have done the balancing your backpack. So we're doing it as a lifeline again, not running through it day by day like we did, but you join our Facebook group. Link is below as well. And the Facebook group originally was just for balancing your backpack. We're now kind of expanding that for the whole podcast, for everything. It's just a touch point to create a community for everyone that's free and accessible. So the lifeline that Kim just mentioned, that's kind of retouching on and re-helping everyone just revisit balancing your backpack, body, mind, and spirit. As we traverse these valleys, the more balanced we are, the better we're able not to create that Grand Canyon gorge.
Absolutely. So we look forward to having you join that Facebook community where we can support you, support one another.
And we're, and the balancing your backpack is kind of the core of it, but it's also meant to help you. If you're stuck in a valley right now, share it. Let us help you. Let us.
Exactly.
So you're not alone.
Yeah. We're just really
lantern.
We are the lantern.
Yeah. Yes. All of us in there for each other.
For sure. So just wanting to, create community to help one another.
Exactly.
So thanks so much, everybody, for listening today. We really hope that you enjoyed this podcast.
And looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Have a great one.
Bye.